COVID-19 challenges that are faced by international students in Greater Sudbury. My name, as you know, is Tama Ghosh. I will be joined by Sohail Shahid Mia, who's a PhD candidate in policy studies and a co-PI of this project, as well as Saad El Hakmi, who's also a PhD candidate in policy studies and an integral part of this project. And he has done most of the French, all of the French interviews. In addition, I would like to recognize the contributions of Anasuya Roy and Sana Baumik, who helped us do some of the interviews as well as transcriptions. These are non-student RAs. I also want to thank Luisa Verones for supporting me at times of need, and of course Professor Rose, who has always helped us, particularly in the initial conceptualization of the project. So I'm going to now ask Sohail to do the initial outlines and setting up the study.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us and having us as a part of this conference. As Professor Tamagash mentioned, in order to get a better picture of what we will be discussing in today's presentations, we provided a brief outline. So we will start by discussing the study rationale and objectives. Then we will move on to briefly discuss the geographical context of the city of Greater Sudbury. And that would follow with a discussion on research questions, methods, and the socio-demographic profile of the respondents. We will also have a sections on the pre-COVID challenges as well as the challenges during the ongoing pandemic. We also provide some examples of the individuals and social resiliency, and we will end our presentations by providing some of the key recommendations that were provided to us by the international students that we interviewed. About the project, given the paucity and the lack of research on international students in third-tier cities, particularly in Northern Ontario, this study focuses on the city of Greater Sudbury. As you can see in this slide, we have provided a few pictures of the three major academic institutions that are located within the city of Sudbury. We also provided the map of what the city of Sudbury looks like. And as you can see, we have used arrows to indicate where each one of these institutions has located throughout the city. And we also highlighted downtown in red so you can see how far of a distance they are to the city. So it may not be very clearly visible in this map, but College Boreal and Cambrian College are within 5 minutes drive from one another, and they are still quite far from downtown as well as Laurentian University. So all three major academic institutions, you still need to use public transportation to be able to have access to these academic institutions. But let me elaborate further on these. In order to attract more international students, one of the main ways to participate in the Northern Immigration Project was for the city to recognize international students as one of the major populations that can help to boost the economy of the city of Sudbury. That is why in 2005, the idea of diversity became one of the main focuses for the city. And from 2005 onward, the city of Sudbury started to attract more international students. And the international students were mainly attracted by the three major academic institutions. In terms of Laurentian University, it is the only university with a tricultural mandate. It offers courses both in English and French with a comprehensive approach to Indigenous studies. It is the largest bilingual provider of distance education in Canada, and it has over nearly 10,000 students. In terms of Cambrian College, it is the largest public college of applied arts and technology in Northern Ontario since 1967. The college does provide a very vibrant community which has more than 4,000 students in full-time programs and over 7,000 students in all part-time programs across its three branches, which are located in Sudbury, Espanola, and Manitoulin Island. Lastly, College Boreal is a francophone College of Applied Arts, which is mostly known for its environmental and natural resources programs in manufacturing, agriculture, forestry, as well as wildlife. College Boreal has more than 15,000 students attending. One also key other thing that I wanted to mention is that, as you can see, we also include the picture of Thorneley University as well as the Huntington University. Those two universities are located within the campus of Laurentian University. So they are part of Laurentian University, which Thorneley University focuses more on subjects such as drama, cinematography, films, whereas Huntington University more focuses on religious studies.
So apart from the two other universities that Sohail pointed out, there are also a number of private colleges all over Greater Sudbury. And on the left-hand top corner, right here, this is one of those colleges which is called the CDI College. It is a career college in Sudbury. So Sudbury, as you can understand then, that is why it is called the academic capital of Northern Ontario. To give you some idea of the social geography of Sudbury, what we want to show you, draw your attention to, is that there are a few visible minority groups residing in Sudbury. The top three are South Asian, Black, and Chinese. So using GIS, when we overlaid these top three visible minority groups with non-permanent residents who are primarily international students, you can see that they are concentrated in certain parts of the city, particularly near the university campuses that were shown previously. In terms of immigration, even though Sudbury has a particular, a significant quantity of immigrants, most of them had arrived prior to 1981. However, from 2005, since the adoption of the diversity management and diversity as the key to economic success, you can see that the number of immigrants have gone quite high. Now, what needs to be understood that although Toronto is so close to Sudbury, there are some differences in the sense that, as you can see, Greater Sudbury is shown in dark blue and Toronto Census Metropolitan Area in light blue. And you can see that the European population is much higher in Greater Sudbury, although the Africans are actually quite a significant population. Our research and key informant interviews have further established that most of these Africans are in fact Francophones. In terms of selected place of birth, Asia is now coming up in Greater Sudbury, but as you can again see, people from Africa are quite high in terms of recent places, immigrants in Sudbury. In terms of generational status, it is therefore not a surprise that third generation or more would be more in Greater Sudbury. What we are trying to establish through these graphs is that it has a mainstream population of European origin predominantly. And this, after 2005, these changes have occurred, where more and more visible minorities are coming into Sudbury. Another important point to remember is that compared to Toronto, people in Sudbury who can speak or have knowledge of both English and French are much higher, which also accounts for, and we believe has something to do with, as Sohail had mentioned, Laurentian and other universities, which provide instructions in both English and French. Sohail? Over to you, Sohail.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry about that. Regarding the research questions and the methods, it is important to emphasize that we are still in the preliminary stage of this research. We are still analyzing the data and we are still going through the process. That being said, there were three main questions that we were really interested to find out the answers. The first one was, what were the pre-pandemic challenges of international students and the institutions supporting them? Not only we were interested in observing the pre-pandemic challenges, we were also interested to find out what were their challenges during the pandemic. So in other words, did the pre-pandemic challenges exacerbate or did they remain the same during the pandemic? We also were interested to find out what strategies, resources, and networks did they use to adapt to the rapidly evolving crisis and also to prepare themselves for future crises similar to COVID-19. In terms of the methodology, we adopted a mixed methodology and we used statistical analysis plus field observations. We conducted in-depth interviews with 9 key informants and 36 interviews with international students living in Greater Sudbury before the pandemic, during, and at the time of the interview. To provide a better picture for you in terms of the socio-demographic profile of the respondents, of the people that we interviewed, out of the 36 international students that we interviewed, 19 of them were female and 17 of them were female and 19 of them were male. In terms of the age range, almost 69% of them fell between the age range 20 to 25 years, whereas 27% of them were between 26 to 35 years old. In terms of the language, 75% of our respondents identified that they can speak English, whereas 25% of them identified that they are francophones and they are able to speak French. In terms of the country of birth, as you can see, Asia was the number one. So we had 55% of our respondents from Asian countries, whereas we had 41% of our respondents from the African countries in comparison to only 3% of our respondents from the Caribbean.
Bonjour tout le monde. Comme mentionné avant, nous sommes dans une étape préliminaire dans notre analyse des données, mais on a déjà pu identifier quelques défis majeurs relevés par les étudiants internationaux dans la région du Grand Sudbury, que ce soit avant ou durant la pandémie. Donc, commençons par la période pré-COVID-19. 3 défis majeurs déjà surgissent. Le premier est de nature académique, le deuxième est lié à l'emploi, le troisième est illustré dans l'insécurité alimentaire. Revenons au premier défi. On remarque qu'il y a 2 niveaux. Le premier étant personnel et se porte sur des difficultés d'apprentissage liées à un problème de communication des étudiants avec leurs professeurs et leurs camarades de classe. Et puis, ça, c'est dû aussi à leur accent et leur manière de parler, que ce soit en français ou en anglais. Et il y a aussi un problème qui est lié à l'adaptation des étudiants internationaux à la méthode d'apprentissage et méthode d'études utilisées au Canada, qui sont parfois différentes de celles de leur pays d'origine. Donc, le deuxième niveau étant institutionnel et en plus en relation avec les universités et collèges, bien qu'ils offrent les meilleures conditions possibles aux étudiants pour qu'ils réussissent, mais certains d'entre eux, ils ont pointé le doigt sur le manque de quelques outils logistiques nécessaires à leur succès académique et puis à leur confort lors de leur présence dans le campus, comme il y a des équipements et une lacune des équipements, une lacune des facilités, etc. Donc, en passant au deuxième défi, au niveau personnel, c'était dans leur recherche d'emploi. Les étudiants font face à des discriminations liées à leur ethnicité, aussi à leur langue et accent. Mais aussi, ils se sentent un peu perdus dans un système d'emploi qu'ils peinent à comprendre. Donc, et puis la troisième, c'est au niveau aussi institutionnel, les étudiants ont peiné vraiment à trouver de l'aide par rapport aux offres d'emploi de leur institut ou bien des organisations qui sont hors du collège. Le troisième défi, c'est vraiment l'insécurité alimentaire. Et là, il y a 3 niveaux. Le premier, c'est la disponibilité des alimentations qui sont de nature culturelle. Là, on a remarqué qu'il y a un manque remarquable de la nourriture qui est culturelle et il y a plusieurs étudiants qui ont mentionné ça. La deuxième, c'est aussi le fait que la nourriture soit un peu chère pour eux. Donc, ils ont peiné vraiment à payer la nourriture. Et puis la troisième, c'est aussi sous forme de l'utilisation des cuisines. Certains d'entre eux font face à des restrictions de propriétaires et d'autres étudiants, ils ont de la peine à gérer leur temps et ils n'ont pas le temps pour faire cuire. Du coup, ben, ils sont un peu occupés par leurs études. Donc, on peut passer au suivant. Yes, if you can do the other slide.
Just to notice, you have talked for 15 minutes, okay?
Yes, we're going to be quicker. Donc là, on a trois citations. On a des exemples des étudiants qui sont au Collège Boréal et aussi à l'Université Laurentienne. L'un des grands défis qui ont relevé, c'est par exemple, si on parle de Sophia, qui est francophone, qui vient de la République démocratique du Congo, et elle souligne qu'elle a vraiment des difficultés à s'adapter à la manière dans laquelle les études se font ici en ligne, surtout dans un cours en ligne où on doit utiliser les ordinateurs. Elle peine vraiment à naviguer le système et la plateforme informatique de son collège. Et du coup, elle est un peu pénalisée quand elle doit soumettre des devoirs en ligne parce qu'elle ne peut pas respecter les délais. Le deuxième, c'est aussi Darshan, il vient de l'Inde. Il a un problème de trouver un travail dans la grande ville de Sudbury. Et du coup, ben, qu'est-ce qui se passe? C'est qu'il a demandé de l'aide à l'Université Laurentienne. Ils ont organisé un forum, mais sans résultat. Le troisième, c'est aussi pour illustrer qu'ils trouvent que la nourriture est vraiment chère et qu'elle n'est pas assez abordable. Donc, on peut passer. Donc, mon collègue Sohail va parler brièvement des problèmes de logement durant COVID-19. Merci. Sohail, it's yours.
Yes, would you please go back to the previous slide? Thank you. As you can see, one of the challenges that was identified by the international students during the pre-COVID, but exacerbated during the COVID, was housing, both on campus and off campus. Here you can see that on the left, we have provided a picture of the two of the many of the residences that Laurentian University offers. And on the right is a picture of what the double room looks like in one of the residences at Laurentian University, which is a very small area where two students share one room. Sorry, still I'm in the previous slide. As you can see in the bottom two pictures, you can see that the average price for a single residence sits around 8,700 for 8 months, which comes in about 1,000 to 1,200 per month. Also, in order to be able to live in this residency, you still have to buy a meal plan, which is a mandatory, which you can see that it does come with a variety of options, but the cheapest one is around $4,000 together. So the each international students for the study of 8 months, each month they have to pay about $1,500 to $1,600 per month. Recall that employment was identified as one of the pre-COVID challenges. And once we link that to the housing, in order to be able, for the international students, for them to be able to support themselves, they definitely need the financial needs. But you can see how expensive and challenging it can be for international students.
Okay, I will sum up some of the points because we are running out of time. So challenges during the ongoing pandemic, here are 3 types of housing where you can see that the average rent is at least $600, if not more. And the basement, of course, is full of cockroaches, etc., as was pointed out by various interviewers. People who were in apartments also had to pay more than $1,000. Going up to the grocery stores, we found that although there are so many different types of grocery stores, particularly they cater to the mainstream population rather than the students. The distance of the grocery stores from the residences were more than 1 kilometer by walking distance, which is the threshold of accessibility. So in other words, the grocery stores were not accessible. Finally, access to public transportation was a major problem, as was reported by various newspapers, where the privileges of bus passport, which is subsidized bus tickets, were cancelled, particularly for Laurentian students. As a result, we find that there are the complexities or the problems associated with COVID-19, and when COVID-19 came in, these things, the problems basically exacerbated. We have some quotations here which we would have liked to present to you in French, but due to lack of time, we are unable to do that. So over to Sad to read out the compounding challenges and then concluding remarks.
Voilà, les problèmes sont devenus plus complexes et ils sont liés l'un à l'autre. Et ici, on a un exemple d'Alex qui vient de la République démocratique du Congo. Il dit que durant le confinement, il a été surpris de voir les parents des gens venir, mais il a vraiment manqué ses parents parce qu'il vivait loin de ses parents. Et puis, du coup, il devait rester dans sa résidence jusqu'au mois de mars. Et il ne pouvait pas aller à son travail et ni faire des courses régulièrement parce qu'il y avait ce problème de passe de transport comme mentionné avant. Et puis, du coup, ce qui s'est passé, c'est qu'il devait partir à pied plus que 45 minutes pour atteindre son travail qu'il a trouvé dans cette place de course, mais aussi pour marcher et pour faire des courses. Donc, au début, c'était OK, mais ça devenait vraiment fatigant après. We can go to the final ones. Donc, les étudiants, ils ont développé une sorte de résilience sociale et aussi résilience individuelle. Du coup, qu'est-ce qu'ils ont fait? Ils ont essayé de demander de l'aide à leur organisation, que ce soit académique, mais aussi à l'extérieur du campus. Le problème, ce qui est arrivé, c'est qu'ils n'ont pas pu recevoir l'aide qu'ils espéraient. Donc, du coup, qu'est-ce qu'ils ont fait? La majorité d'entre eux, pendant les vacances d'été, ils sont partis à la grande région de Toronto ou à Montréal pour trouver plus de chances de travail, mais aussi pour économiser l'argent du logement parce qu'ils ne devaient pas payer, parce qu'ils avaient des gens de famille qui vivaient là-bas. Et finalement, on a le dernier, c'est les recommandations des étudiants internationaux. Donc, on appelle les résidents du Grand Sudbury à une meilleure considération de la situation des étudiants internationaux et faire leur mieux pour les aider. Et puis, le dernier, c'est les étudiants qui ont besoin de plus de support, particulièrement de la municipalité de la ville de Sudbury, mais aussi des institutions académiques pour résoudre leurs problèmes de diverses natures. Donc voilà, on a fini notre présentation. Merci beaucoup.
Oh, thank you very much. To have gone a bit faster by the end. We have a very few minutes to question and comments. If someone has a question or comments. F. Duham.
Oui, ben moi, je voudrais juste témoigner là, ici à Québec d'une amie qui est doctorante à l'Université Laval, qui a vécu un grand stress